Today I'm going to talk about another product that we have at Cubex Equipment. This is the TSM Itala 135. It's a 100% electric walk-behind sweeper. The unit is self-propelled, so when you're walking behind it, it's actually doing the work for you. You just have to guide it to where you want to go. But as I mentioned, 100% fully electric. The batteries on board here give you about 7 or 8 hours of operating time on a single charge, and it takes about 9 hours to fully charge the batteries from empty. You can do that just with a regular wall plug at 110 volts or at 220 volts. So it gives you a lot of versatility as far as being able to, or where you can charge this unit up. As I said, this is a walk-behind sweeper. The purpose of this is for maneuverability and being able to sweep in areas that you typically wouldn't be able to with a larger ride-on sweeper. Because the unit is fully electric, it's extremely quiet when operating. Even with the brooms down on the ground, the operating noise is about 70 decibels, so very nice and quiet. Being able to get into such tight areas, having a lower sound coming from the sweeper itself is a really nice feature, because you can actually operate closer to where there's people, you know, in parks, for instance, on pathways, without bothering them. You can also work at night in densely populated areas without disturbing people as well. So very nice feature of the unit. Of course, being 100% electric, you know, there's no emissions or anything like that that are coming from the sweeper. Nice, very green product. The sweeping width at the front is approximately 1.25 meters from the edge of your broom to the edge of the other broom. Those brooms will work to corral the material under the unit, where a main broom down here, a bigger cylindrical one, is going to pick up the material and deposit it into your material hopper, which is at the back. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. The material hopper itself is 135 liters. You can put a heavy-duty bag in there too, so that it's a little bit easier to corral the material and dispose of it when you're done. But it's really nice and easy to take that hopper out, even if it's full of heavier material, which the machine is fully capable of picking up because it is a mechanical broom unit. On board, we also have a 30-liter liquid tank here, and this is strictly for your dust suppression at your nozzles for your brooms at the front. So if they're generating a little bit of dust around the unit, you can turn that feature on, and just to keep that dust down. If it's not that dusty around the unit, you don't have to necessarily use the dust suppression feature, because our main broom here does have a vacuum assist system that pulls any dust generated by it through a filter and then sends the air out to atmosphere. So this unit is really extremely quiet, and if you don't need to, you don't have to actually run. It can be run waterlessly. So looking at the back of the Itala sweeper here, you'll notice we have our controls, and we have the hopper back here as well. I'm going to focus this part of the video on the material hopper, how it comes out, and as well as the broom housing inside there. So again, we'd mentioned earlier in the video, this is your 135 liter hopper, and that's where all the material goes that's being swept. What's nice about this is that the unit is actually set up so that it's a bit like a wheelbarrow when you take it out. And there's not a lot of stress on the operator's back. They're not having to hoist anything. So I'll show you how to go about doing that right away here. So just giving you a better view here, you undo these two latches, and you can see by doing that, the weight has now dropped onto the tires back here of the unit. You bring the hooks down and basically use the weight, or the weight's going to be all on the tires. You just tip this back and you can move your hopper, dump the material if you want. There's a really nice feature on here too. You put a the heavy duty bag that fits the hopper on here. And then this feature actually helps you set it in place and keeps it nice and open so that the material fits nicely in there. Again, 135 liter hopper, so there's lots of room in there for you to put material. In the back here, you'll notice this is our broom housing. The main broom is there. It actually rotates over and flicks the material into this hopper here. You'll notice that the bristles are actually in a scoop pattern, so it's really nice for grabbing the material and keeping it centered towards the middle of the material hopper there. So really easy design. You can see how nice and open it is there when you have the hopper out. So for cleaning, it's quite easy to access everything, which is really nice for the operators at the end of the shift. I'll show you how to put the material hopper back in now. Just follow the same procedure as you did when you're removing the material. Keep in mind at this point, the hopper should be empty. So it's a lot lighter than when you were taking it off, but still the same. You just slide the unit into place. Once it makes contact with the unit, just use your hooks here. Put them in place and then lift. And the hopper's right back in place, nice and easy. Coming up here to the controls of the unit, very well laid out. Again, you can see there's not a ton of buttons or anything on here, so the operation of this unit is very simple. It takes about 15-20 minutes to get used to actually using this and being quite proficient with the machine. So to start out, the kind of main thing that you're going to be doing is guiding the machine here and steering it. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the unit is actually proportionally controlled. So you know, the operator has quite a bit of control over how the machine is propelling itself, right? So the machine, again, is doing a lot of the work. You don't actually have to push as an operator. The way that you control the forward and reverse motion with the unit is on the handlebar here. By pushing forward, the machine will go forward, and by pulling back on here, the machine will start to go backwards. The more you push forward, the faster it's going to go, and the less, or the more you let it go back to the neutral position, the slower it's going to go. We have a proportional control here that basically sets your maximum speed. So if I was to set this all the way to your rabbit, then push as far forward as I can on this, that gets you the absolute maximum speed of the machine, which is actually 6.5 kilometers an hour. That's quite fast. If I'm walking behind the machine, typically you wouldn't want to have this dialed all the way to the rabbit. You would probably have it somewhere closer on the lower half of the proportional control, so that when you did press all the way forward, you're not doing 6.5 kilometers an hour, you'd be doing something along the lines of 3 or less. That's more manageable to keep up with when you're walking behind the unit. There is a feature on here that we'll cover later called the chariot, and it's something that you would sit on, so you're not walking behind the machine. We'll go into more detail about that, but that's when, you know, you'd have this dialed up a little bit further towards the rabbit when you're using the chariot feature. Talking about the buttons on here, you know, we talked about some of the features that we have on the unit. You have two gutter brooms or side brooms. They're controlled individually, the on and the off, okay? That's these two buttons there for left and right. To control placing those brooms down, you've got individual control for that too. By moving these black controls forward, that actually drops the brooms at the front, and by pulling them back, that actually raises them up. The red lever here is for your main broom, the one that's actually putting the material into the hopper. By pulling that back, you're actually putting the broom down on the ground. And for really sticky situations where you've got heavy built up material that might be caked on, you can actually place a little bit more down pressure manually on that broom. It's not something you'd want to do on an extended basis, but for spot situations that are pretty tough, you can do that and put a little bit more weight down on the broom, which is nice. There is a neutral lock on here too, so when the brooms are in the up position, they will hold, but they just are in a float position when they're out of there. So it's just essentially gravity pressure on the brooms, which is really nice because it helps prolong the longevity of them. So that's your on feature for the two brooms there. This button here actually gives you the ability to turn on your main broom, or we'll talk about this feature later, to turn on your vacuum hose as well. This is the button that turns on your dust suppression water feature for the brooms at the front. You have a horn here. The readout here is going to give you your charge level and an hour count for the unit itself. We do have some work lights at the front, and another really nice feature that we'll talk about in the video is the hopper, or the vibrator for your big filter. Earlier we had spoken about how the main broom has a vacuum assist to suck all the dust into the filter. Well, this is that filter, and periodically you'll use this feature during the operation of the unit just to vibrate the filter and knock the dust back into the hopper at the bottom. And last but not least, your emergency stop here will actually shut off all the functions on the unit if you need to quickly for whatever safety purpose. And really important feature as well, cup holder. So coming over to the right-hand side of the unit here, we touched on this a little bit earlier in the video, but the unit can also be used as a vacuum system for hard to reach places where you can't get at the debris with the sweeping system. Corners of a shop, let's say, or if you're sweeping in a parking lot and you've got the parking barriers, you can use the hose to get in behind them and suck up material. The way that this works, remember earlier we had mentioned that in the main broom housing you have a vacuum assist to suck dust and everything through a filter. Well, what you do when the unit's in the sweeping mode here, the airflow is actually sucking through that filter from the main broom housing, and if you flip this lever here, it actually shuts off the vacuum from the main broom housing and focuses the vacuum, the suction power through this hose here. And so any of the debris that you suck through this hose is actually going to end up in this material hopper, just the same as the sweepings would. So again, a really nice feature that improves the versatility of this unit and really allows you to clean up basically in any surface area around parking lot, garages, anything like that you're using this sweeper in. So coming back around to the left-hand side of the sweeper here, I just want to focus on the maintenance items that you would do in a shift with this unit. So, first thing is obviously you'll want to make sure the unit is being charged in between your shifts, so that you can get as much work out of the unit as possible. That's the number one thing. After you've gotten that taken care of before your shift, what you'll want to do is make sure that your brooms have the appropriate amount of bristle length and everything on them to be able to sweep effectively. So that you'll focus in two different areas there. One is the main broom, and then of course your side brooms or gutter brooms at the front. As we'd mentioned earlier in the video, when you do lower these brooms, it's just gravity pressure that's keeping them on the ground there. So they are going to wear quite slowly, which is nice. But one thing you want to make sure is that you've got a nice half moon shaped strike pattern on the ground with the front brooms. It's time to replace those brooms when you're not able to get that nice strike pattern anymore on the front. So that's one thing you'll want to check before you go out to your shift. If you do need to change one of these brooms, it's fairly simple and easy to do. There is a single bolt right on the bottom here that you undo, and this broom is a single piece and it pops right off, and you can put a new one right back on there. It takes less than 4 minutes to do per side. So nice, easy repair there when you do need to replace one of the brooms. So it's not very time consuming, which is great. The other one is your main broom here. So what you'll want to check for before you go out sweeping with this unit is that you have a 3 centimeter wide strike pattern. So basically what that is where the broom makes contact with the ground on the front of the broom all the way across, and then you compare it to where it makes that finishes that strike pattern towards the back of the unit. You want those two lines to be parallel with each other and about 3 centimeters apart. If they're not 3 centimeters apart, it's a little bit narrower. You know that the bristles have worn past the point where it's effective on the machine, and it's time to replace the main broom on this unit. So a couple more steps compared to the front brooms, but still quite an easy process. The broom comes out on this side in one full piece, and the way that you get it so that you can take that broom out is you need to have a 3/8 inch wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, and then a crosshead screwdriver. With those three pieces, you'll be able to pull, there's 7 bolts basically that come off, and then a side plate, and you pull the curtain off the side too. Then the whole broom will come out in one, it'll be totally exposed. It comes out in one piece, and then you slide the new broom in and just replace the siding and everything. That whole process takes less than 10 minutes to do. Extremely simple and easy. Definitely not like changing the main broom on a truck mounted sweeper. Further maintenance items on this unit, we just talked about checking your brooms and replacing them, but more so on a day-to-day basis. After checking your brooms, you're going to want to make sure that that filter that's inside the unit is clean. Again, that filter is what is, you know, the air is sucking all the dust in your main broom housing through that filter. So for that to continue working properly and for you to have that airflow in there working as dust suppression, you want to make sure that the filter is clear when you start your shift. To do that, quite simple. Just open up this top hatch here, and the filter comes out nice and easy. It's a fairly big unit. Basically what you'll do is blast it with some shop air from the back side. The dust will come out of it. You do that at the end of your shift, you'll be good to go starting the next shift. The other thing on here, we talked about the hopper vibrator button that's on the controls here. That's where this is located. So it actually vibrates the top of the filter to knock any dust down into the hopper back here. Once you've blown the filter out at the end of your shift, nice and easy to put this back. Just slides right in, and then that aspect is done. So again, that takes less than 4 or 5 minutes to do, but it's an extremely important step in the process. As well, under the hood here, we have our batteries. They are absorbed glass mat or AGM style batteries. So what's really nice about them is they're essentially maintenance free. The biggest item is that you'll, you don't have to top them up or anything frequently. What you'll want to do though is make sure that they're depleted to about 20% of their charge at least before you start charging the unit again. And that just adds to the longevity of the batteries. So just wanted to give a little bit more information on the maneuverability and handling of the machine. So earlier we had talked about when we went over the controls that we had a proportional control for the max speed, and that you also had control using your hands, basically how much of that max speed you want to use in the forward or backwards motion. Again, the unit is totally self-propelled. So the forwards and backwards motion, all the hard work is done by the machine. Essentially, the operator, like myself right now, all you have to do is just guide it. So we'll go through that process. So again, the slower or the less that I push this in, the slower the unit's gonna go. As I push it in further, it's gonna go a little bit faster. As you can see, it's kind of a one-handed job, really nice and easy and quite maneuverable. Again, I'm not really putting any kind of force into this or anything, and it can turn quite tight. I had the maximum speed turned down quite a bit there and wasn't pushing the handle all the way in. But, you know, I'd be operating this in tighter spaces this way. So if you're working inside a parking garage or a facility or in a parkade that was a little bit tighter, maybe a pathway in a park that had some turns or a lot of people on it, you know, you'd want to be operating the unit like that so you had really good control over where it was going. Now, if you're going to be sweeping in a longer, straighter path and you want to get a little bit more productivity, what you can do is turn that maximum speed up on the unit and attach your chariot option, which we have right back here. It's just a ball hitch right onto the back, so it's a nice, quick, easy process to get that hooked up. Just like that. And it's nice and easy and quite comfortable to sit on. And basically what you do is you just turn the unit by doing this. You have basically an articulation point here, and that's how you steer the unit. So quite easy to handle, and you can actually dial up the max speed that you can travel at, so you can actually sweep at a little bit faster pace than you'd be able to walk. So in summary, the TSM Itala 135 is a great little machine, 100% fully electric. You get about 7 to 8 hours of operating time on a single charge. Can be recharged overnight at 110 volt or 220 volts. Great little maneuverable unit for working, you know, in underground parking garages, tight parkades, pathways, sidewalks, anything like that for litter pickup or just general sweeping. Because it has a mechanical broom, you will be pleasantly surprised at how heavy material this thing can pick up. We've done quite a few tests in our own parking lot for spring cleanup, and I was quite amazed at how much this thing picks up, especially for the size of it. Unit can be run waterlessly if you need to, but does have dust suppression on the front. And because of the onboard fan that sucks the dust from the broom housing, you also have the added versatility of your wander hose to fit into areas that you wouldn't be able to sweep with the unit itself. It's extremely easy to operate, really low maintenance, and just an overall amazing piece of equipment. Cubex Equipment is the authorized dealer, exclusive authorized dealer across Canada. We have 5 locations from Quebec to British Columbia that we do the sales, service, and parts support for these vehicles. If you have any questions or have any interest in the product, please get a hold of your local Cubex Equipment dealership. We'd be more than happy to help you with those answers. Thanks so much.